So that's an IV, and they put it through your whole body.
Took over $100,000 worth of stem cells to save my career after a devastating injury.
Ever since I got stem cells, that hasn't been the case. I feel incredible because I thought it was maybe placebo.
Combination of the stem cells and the exosomes provide a pseudo-immediate response.
And so clearly, look at me. I'm satisfied with their effects. They're working. To me, that's just being a little sus.
Another small shot of stem cells.
The 50-year-old former arm wrestling world champion was convicted back in 2003 for a similar fraudulent crime.
Okay, it's no big secret that the world of arm wrestling, and even strength sports in general, is not afraid to experiment with new ideas. By and large, this willingness to innovate can be a good thing. It opens the door to discovering exciting new training methods or uncovering treatments that could enhance recovery. However, when some of the biggest names in the sport start heavily endorsing treatments or substances that may lack robust scientific backing, it should raise legitimate concerns. I am the arm historian, and I believe arm wrestling might now find itself in precisely this situation. In this video, I'll present multiple examples of arm wrestling athletes and influencers promoting what I believe to be, in some cases, pseudo-scientific claims, and sometimes even profiting from them. Let me be clear here though, I'm not a scientist, and while I consider myself to be somewhat scientifically literate, my conclusions are those of an arm in a suit at the end of the day. Take them as you will. Let's begin with a trend that has recently captivated the arm wrestling community and seems to be delivering what some describe as miraculous results: stem cell treatments. These treatments have enabled several athletes to make what appear to be remarkably rapid recoveries. To put it simply, stem cells are a unique type of adaptive cell that can transform into the specific type of cell needed by the body. This property makes them particularly valuable for applications like tissue repair, where their regenerative capabilities are celebrated. Now, for decades, stem cells have been used in well-established medical procedures, such as bone marrow transplants, treat blood cancers, or is even used in certain dental procedures. However, the stem cell clinics that have been proliferating globally often promote their treatments as a panacea for a wide range of conditions. Your hip hurts a little? Stem cells. Your arm can't fully straighten? Stem cells. You want to be the number one in the world? Well, maybe reconsider. Without joking though, their methods frequently lack the scientific rigor seen in traditional medical applications. Now, one common offering from these clinics is orthopedic stem cell treatments. And I think this is where arm wrestlers come in. Because orthopedic stem cell treatments involve injecting stem cells to address issues related to bones or muscles. Makes sense, right? For arm wrestlers who frequently deal with injuries and chronic joint or shoulder problems, the promise of a simple injection to heal years-old injuries or even recent tears is understandably very appealing. Because of this, to me at least, it was only a matter of time before a mutually beneficial relationship formed between top-level arm wrestlers and these very stem cell clinics. Some clinics began sponsoring major arm wrestling events, and stem cell treatments quickly became a hot topic within the arm wrestling community. Athletes and influencers alike started promoting these treatments across their social media platforms, sharing personal success stories, discussing them on podcasts, and even documenting their visits to specific clinics, complete with interviews with the practitioners. This, of course, brings the potential for a host of issues. Athletes and influencers who are sponsored by stem cell clinics may feel compelled to speak positively about their experiences, even if their personal results were negligible or even negative. This in turn, of course, creates a potential conflict of interest, where financial incentives could outweigh honest assessments. Moreover, sponsorship by largely unregulated clinics could damage the reputation of arm wrestling as a legitimate sport. It might make the community appear more focused on short-term financial gain rather than on long-term health and the integrity of its athletes. Listen, I don't want to discount anyone's positive experiences with stem cells. I'm sure a large majority of popular arm wrestlers are very genuine in their belief in their treatments, and the fact that any corporation is interested in even sponsoring our events, or athletes for that matter, is great. However, before you blindly follow anyone, take into account what some other people have to say on the matter. Like the American College of Sports Medicine, for example. They've published an article on the responsible use of stem cell therapies in sports. It's freely available to the public, and any athlete considering such therapies may review the article for a more data-driven point of view on the effectiveness of stem cell therapies for various conditions in arm wrestling or otherwise. They go on to conclude in this article that currently there are no proven FDA-approved stem cell treatments for muscle, joint, or tendon injuries. So that gets pretty specific to what we're talking about here, right? There's also the National Institute of Health, who has the following view on the topic. Over time, we expect that breakthroughs will continue with stem cell-based therapies for many conditions. However, at this time, rogue clinics driven by profits are taking advantage of patients desperate for cures and are claiming dramatic results, often exaggerated in sensational media testimonials. Ring a bell? Clinics may provide misleading information and advertise their practice as running clinical trials, they go on to say. However, these clinics almost always work without FDA regulatory approval and operate outside of legitimate clinical trial approaches. Pretty clear language. Now, all this to say, maybe we should just reserve our judgment until the results are a little more robust. And maybe athletes should even give similar disclaimers when promoting these products. That's just my opinion though. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Something else that has been making the rounds amongst professional arm wrestlers for a while now is the so-called treatment of hot cupping. Now, in contrast to certain stem cell therapies where you could at least point to some encouraging results, cupping therapy, despite what the name suggests, hold no apparent benefits for injury recovery and won't soon strengthen your cupping ability on the table either. The age-old treatment of hot cupping, where a series of, you guessed it, often hot suction cups is placed on specific parts of the body, boasts a whole slew of outlandish claims and seem to be favored and even tentatively promoted by a number of highly ranked arm wrestlers. You'll often hear claims of improved blood flow or removal of toxins. However, despite numerous attempts at proving these results from the treatment of hot cupping, no evidence for its efficacy has ever been supported in a true clinical trial. Do I think it's seriously egregious that some high-level arm wrestlers are promoting this practice, or in some cases even perform the treatment themselves? Not really. Apart from promoting pseudoscience, I don't see a lot of direct harm from the treatment itself. That being said though, I do feel I have to mention that I could basically find all this information freely after just a quick cursory Google search, and maybe athletes with impressionable followings should do the same at a minimum. There's numerous examples of high-level arm wrestlers out there talking about all kinds of diets, intermittent fasting, extreme weight cuts, and weight gains, and everything else under the sun. Some of this is of course the direct consequence of arm wrestling being a sport with weight classes. Makes sense, right? Despite us still being a smaller sport and that a lot of rigorous research needs to be done towards arm wrestling specifically, I don't think we should exactly be reinventing the wheel here when it comes to diets. Weight classes have been around for a long time in all kinds of different sports, and from a dietary perspective, there's a healthy way of doing things, and then there's the unhealthy way of doing things. Playing along with dietary fads or experimenting in that way is not necessarily something I can fault any arm wrestling content creator, or athlete for that matter, but just so you know that as a viewer, you should take most of it with a grain of salt, and maybe you should consider consulting an actual professional when attempting any extreme diet.
Kind of brief on me completing a 5-day fast, okay? So I feel like incredible, like awesome.
Fasting. Is it good? Is it bad? Our theory is good for insulin sensitivity, hormone reset, stem cell release, and obviously the big one, how do you say it? Autophagy? Autophagy. I always screw that one up.
What it seems to be is a good tool to help people kind of reduce their calorie intake. Question that I kind of have is, all right, what if you stretch that out over, 3 months, lost that same body fat, would you have similar results? Based on the 16-8 research we have, they saw exactly the same results in terms of the blood markers of health, in terms of fat loss, all that kind of stuff.
The same thing goes for the rising amount of extreme lifts that are being performed in our social media space lately, but maybe that's best kept for a separate video. There are of course also some more on-the-nose examples of arm wrestlers promoting dubious substances, with a certain New York City arm wrestler, for example, getting in hot water multiple times for selling, amongst other things, apricot seeds as a cure for cancer, using arm wrestling footage as a way to demonstrate his apparent health after taking the seeds.
Do you believe that you survived cancer because of the power of these seeds?
Our very own Georgian champion also recently made a casual remark talking about his use of SARMs, a dangerously untested performance enhancer. And while we're on the topic, the use of PEDs doesn't really fall under the scope of this video, but I think it is worth mentioning again that we should encourage an open dialogue within our sport on this very topic. There's even been multiple examples of the use of ketamine by some of the top arm wrestling athletes. I personally first learned of ketamine as a party drug, but after doing some research, it seemed to be used in certain clinical settings today. Much like stem cell clinics, ketamine clinics have been popping up all over the world within the last few years, offering the supervised admittance of the drug to patients suffering mainly from depression. And indeed, although nothing has been conclusively proven, there are some encouraging results in treating depression specifically in patients. I do have to applaud Michael Todd though for being open about his struggles with depression and actually using this treatment as intended, even though he is quite full of the Holy Spirit lately.
I don't even think you have to be a faith-based person to see how badly Satan's trying to stop me.
At the end of the day, and yes, this may sound like a cliche, you have to do your own research and genuinely attempt to recognize your own biases while doing so. As the sport grows, this might change, but for now, there's no real accountability when it comes to promoting unproven treatments or substances, nor should there necessarily be. Arm wrestling athletes and influencers have little incentive to do due diligence right now, and they are of course free to promote and do whatever they damn well please. The responsibility falls mainly on us, the fans, supporters, and viewers, to separate fact from snake oil and hold the athletes we admire, follow, and financially support, and the treatments or products we use to a higher standard. In my opinion, going forward, this will only make our sport stronger. This video was a little different than what I usually do, but I feel pretty strongly about the topic. I welcome the discussions this will undoubtedly lead to in the comments and hope you generally enjoyed the video, even though you might not agree with some of it. Big thanks to everyone who watched and to the Armians and Fingerfolk, and a special shout out to Chuck for helping me with some of the research for this video. Arm Historian, out.